Hey guys, welcome back for another video. So I was super excited to do the 60S that I did very recently. That was for my own personal use. I'm even more excited to take a look at this, the 50S, because I think, at least on paper, this is poised to be the absolute value killer for a comm unit. We're gonna unbox it real quick, go through its features, I'll show you the app, shouldn't be anything new in it. I'm gonna install it on my helmet, we'll take it out on the road, I'll give you my thoughts on the sound quality and the volume and all that kind of good stuff. Now this is the last of the previous generation. This has been out about a year and a half, so it's nothing new, and I'm quite sure you've probably seen reviews of it if you've been riding or have been in the market. But it's all new to me. My last unit that I was using was the 30K, the predecessor to this, and really, again, on paper, not too different. Okay, first impressions, yeah, it feels exactly like the 30K. We've got the familiar pads on the bottom. This has been that way since at least the 20s, which I also went through. We've got the familiar jog dial, and the feeling of this is exactly like everything that I've had that I can remember. It's on the lighter side. The 60S was a little bit, or is a little bit stiffer. This is very loose, so easy to spin. Good detents though, but hardly takes any touch pressure to be able to spin it. Not a big deal there. And of course, it's also a button. We've got the phone button. You press both of them to turn it on or off. Status light here. We've got the familiar mesh antenna. Just flips up like that, like all of the SENA mesh units. And again, I've mentioned this in past reviews. For normal riding conditions, I never have to raise this. It's not hard to do anything on the bike, but I've only had to raise it if somebody's lost and they're just, way out of range. It does make a difference, but even in the down position, man, they've got such great connectivity with the mesh. Just never needed to do anything. I've said this again in my other comms reviews, but I primarily use these for navigation prompts, phone calls, music listening. 95% plus of my use of these is just for personal use. So I don't use them unless I'm in the very rare group ride to actually use communications. On the back, we've got the normal slide down for the bracket mount, and that is it. There's nothing special or extra about this. We've got the charge port with the rubber flap in the bottom. Note, this is not in any way waterproof. Only the 60S that just came out has waterproofing. So if that's a big feature for you, either look at the 60S or consider another brand like Cardo, which has waterproof units. So let's take a look at what else is in the box here. All right, just a big box of accessories. And in the bottom, we've got some instructions. Got our quick start guide. Oh, that's right, there is an ambient mode button on the bracket. I never use that. That's if you need to talk to somebody and you don't want to take off your helmet. It's kind of like in modern noise canceling headphones, they'll usually have a mode to let the outside noise in, and that's exactly what that does for you. I wear earplugs, and they allow me to hear in if I'm talking to somebody like a booth operator or somebody next to me in a car or something like that. So I've never needed to use that, but if you use solid earplugs, this actually can be a really useful feature. And then other languages on the back. SENA Wi-Fi adapter. I have no idea what that is. That is completely new to me. USB-C to USB-A. I'll have to read about that. I have no clue what that is. All right, so the app is going to have the normal manual and full instructions in it. Let's take a look at what's in the accessory box. I'm curious if there's that Wi-Fi adapter in there, if that's something optional. We've got our boom mic. Now this should have the normal configuration of a bracket and two mics that you can plug in. The boom here being for open helmets and the soft mic being for closed. I don't think this is a case where they give you any extra brackets or anything like that. And then we have extra foam pads. Here's the soft mic, spacers, and extra sticky pads. So standard stuff there. Oh wow, okay, so here's the Wi-Fi adapter. Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at this after I finish showing you what's in the box and figure out what that is. Never even heard of it. And then here's our bracket. Is there another bracket in there? No, there isn't. So this has the boom mic attached to the bracket. Oh, that's right. It's been so long since I modified this type that I forgot. You unscrew this, and a little cover comes off, and then you can snap on the configuration you want. Some will have just headphones, some will have a optional 3.5 port that you can also connect if you want to use your own earphones, your own earbuds. Let me see if there's anything like that in here. Here's another bracket. Oh, that's for the sticky mount in case you don't want to clamp it to your helmet. Extra wind socks, extra pads, the microphone, open mic pads. Boy, they give you a lot of wind socks there. All right, so no adapter, 3.5 adapter. Maybe it's an optional accessory, maybe it's just not available with this model. No big deal there. We do have their HD speakers, which I had on the 30K. At the time they came out, they were optional, and I added them, and then they became standard throughout the SENA line. So I know exactly what those sound like. Should be very nice and clear. Now, one note, the 50S, like the 60S, has a firmware update in the pipeline. It is not out yet, and it's going to be adding, reportedly, another 4 dB to the overall volume for both the 50S and the 60S, but it's not out yet. So what I'm going to be reviewing here is current firmware. I'll, of course, fully charge this and update it to make sure, but as of today, as I'm filming, it's not available yet. In the future, it will be. And I will do an update video with both this 50s and the 60S after that firmware comes out, just to let you guys know how they measure. I'm also going to be doing a heads up between this, the 60, and the PackTalk Edge for overall volume and clarity. And I'll measure each, and we'll see how they stack up. And that'll be interesting because there are big price differences and big feature differences between the three. So you can figure out which one is going to be doing it for you. All right, I'm going to look this up. We'll put it on the helmet and go through the app real quick. So looking this up real quick, this Wi-Fi adapter is simply to give you the option to connect directly to your Wi-Fi and update your firmware through the phone app instead of connecting via a wire and updating it through the desktop software. So kind of a bridge between the older models and the 60S, which has update over the air already built in. Pretty cool. And just a quick note, there's an error in the instructions for actually connecting the Wi-Fi adapter to the app, which you have to do first. The instructions say hit the settings icon and then select update via Wi-Fi. There's something in between missing. You hit the settings icon and then you have to hit update firmware, and then you'll see update via Wi-Fi. So that whole process was absolutely seamless. Note, you do not plug it into your computer. You must plug it into a USB power source. Then you just open the app, you go to your phone, connect to its Wi-Fi. It automatically detects it. It automatically started a sequence of updating its firmware, and then it automatically updated the 50S's software. All in all, it took about 10 minutes, and now I'm going to wait for this to finish charging. Actually, I'm going to pull it over to my fast charger, and then we can configure the app. So the way you swap mics on the 50S here is you completely take out the two set screws and take off that back bracket, and then you see this little collar here will spin to unlock, and then you just pop the one mic out and plug the other one in. Now the 50S uses a mic, even the soft mic here, that plugs directly in. There's no intermediate connection. So you just run this direct to wherever you need to. I actually prefer these now old style clamps because they're shallow, and because they use screws instead of just a spring, they have a really secure connection without doing any damage to the helmet, and they can fit in more places because that bracket doesn't have to shove way up into the helmet. This RF1200 doesn't have a big gap, so this fits perfectly. But of course, you can sticky mount it to the side, and the benefit there would be this will be higher up on the helmet. This does stick down just a little bit, so that might bother you. There we go, all buttoned up. Let's slide this guy on and lock it in. I still have to set it up in the app. I'll do that with you guys right after this. Got everything installed, good enough for the review. Speakers in, you can't see. Got two mics in there at the moment, actually 3 mics in there at the moment, and the other one over here. And also note this one, I believe this should have the FM radio. I didn't check the app yet, but if it does, this Other side speaker is the FM antenna, so make sure you loop it and don't bundle it up tight for best reception. All right, let's take a look at the app and set this up. So that was cool. I just turned it on for the first time. It announced the battery level was high, that the firmware update was complete, and automatically put it into phone pairing mode and announced it. That's cool. Nothing to do. Now I'm going to go ahead and... Okay, let's take a look at the app. Run through it real quick. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll run through the options. On the front page, we're at the current firmware as of today, 2.6, fully charged, of course. You've got the normal controls for turning on and off the mesh radio. I can't do that while I'm doing screen recording. Found that bug in the 60S, or limitation, I should say. It's probably not a bug. But you can turn the radio off to get more battery life if you're just doing your local use. Down at the bottom, we've got the home screen, which we're on. Audio controls, same thing. You can swipe to also turn on and off the radio. We've got intercom, where you can easily use the app, which I highly suggest you do for creating any groups or joining any groups. And then you've got current playing stuff here in the audio tab, and of course phone, where you can add a preset if you wish. Going into settings, you can give it a new name. Firmware is up to date here. We'll go into device settings. Audio equalizer is exactly what you would think it is. The EQ, I found that for my use, treble boost is what I like, but that's going to depend on what earphones you have, or earplugs I should say, and what helmets, etc. Total personal choice, what you choose there. Audio boost, there's really no reason to turn that off. It's basically let it play as loud as it can. Smart volume control is going to react to outside noise and try to raise the volume if you have outside noise, but you can just leave that off and use your volume and always get maximum volume. And believe me, you're gonna need every bit you can get. FM radio is for setting your region. That will set the correct tuning and preset range. Radio data system, you can turn that on or off. No reason to turn it off. FM station guide is if you want it to announce when you are scanning or go to another station, because there's no display unless you have the app up in front of you while you're writing. It will announce it verbally. You can turn that on or off, personal choice. Mesh 3.0, I was very happy to see this. I thought that the 60S was the only one that had 3.0, but no, the 50S also does. So you're gonna get the better communication between any 50 or 60S riders in your group. HD intercom, again, I have no idea why you would ever want to turn it off. It's simply gonna give you the best voice quality. Bluetooth intercom audio multitasking. This is if you want your music and nav stuff to lower in volume while you are in a conversation. That's a yes or no switch. And then you can toggle it how sensitive to the conversation it is. So you can tune that while you're on the road. Bluetooth intercom audio multitasking, a fancy way for saying, do you want to hear your music and GPS and all of that during a conversation? Yes or no. And audio overlay volume management, if you want the volume of said to dip while you're having a conversation, and then the sensitivity level of how much do you want it to dip. Mesh reach out is something I actually still don't know what it does. I tried to look that up after the 60S review. I couldn't find a great explanation for what that is yet. Down in utility, side tone is basically an echo. Do you want to hear your voice through your speakers? I personally have never used that. I don't know what the use case is for it. Advanced noise control is exactly what it sounds like. Do you want, during a mic conversation, whether it's a phone or intercom, for everybody else to have noise control from you? And usually the answer is yes, unless you want them to hear wind noise and your exhaust and all of that. HD voice, again, I don't know why you would turn that off. You want the best quality. Vox is voice control of answering the phone and answering an incoming intercom request. I personally leave those off. I like to use the buttons because I don't want to accidentally answer a call or a conversation that I don't want to because I said something. Voice assistant is if you're using Google or Siri, and that will enable you to just directly use it through the comms as if you were using your phone in front of you. Voice prompt will give you the vocal feedback for certain features through the system. If you don't need to hear those, you can just turn that off. Headset language, pretty self-explanatory. And then you get a list of all the voice commands that you can use, not only the built-in ones for your phone, but all the stuff that's built right into the system to do all the common commands. So there's hardly ever a need to physically touch the system if you don't want to. Oh, this is cool. I haven't seen this before. You've got GoPro commands. Some GoPros, if you've enabled it, have voice control as well. I don't use GoPro anymore, but my DJI also has voice controls. I don't personally use those, but it's cool that they're on there. And then firmware update, if you have the Wi-Fi adapter, you can do that through here. And then help and guide, you've got the complete manual and video walkthroughs of everything in here. That's it for the app. Okay, on the road testing. Been playing around with the settings. And for this particular one, I do like the treble boost as well as I did on the 60S, just for the overall tone balance. However, everything else is different. First of all, it has a little bit of distortion on the really loud passage hits. Not as bad as the Cardo Pack Talk Edge had. This is just doing it on the bass. The Edge was doing it also on the vocals, which is really weird. However, this overall is sound quality and volume-wise especially identical to my 30K. There is no reason to get this. If you're looking for additional volume over the previous gen models, you're not going to get it. Now, of course, the firmware update is supposed to give you a little bit of a boost, but I'm telling you right now, it's not even going to be close to even what the 60S is without the firmware update. It's not even close. The Pack Talk Edge is a little bit louder. Clarity-wise, about the same. I can, at these normal speeds, you can hear everything and understand lyrics and navigation prompts and all that. However, at highway speeds, the wind noise just completely drowns it out. Usage-wise, it's identical again to the previous models. Totally easy to spin the jog dial, on, off, hit the buttons, everything exactly where you're used to it if you're coming from SENA and from their previous units. So really, this particular model is going to be for people that are looking for enhanced comms unit features, such as the Mesh 3.0 and the increased battery life and increased range and that kind of thing, especially if you're riding in SENA groups. But if, like me, you're primarily interested in overall volume quality, go to the 60S without a doubt. There's simply nothing on the market that I've tested yet that is anywhere close to the volume and clarity at all speeds and all conditions as the 60S. I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping that this would have some boost over the 30K just because it's a couple years newer. But again, this has been out for a good year and a half, so it's not going to have any cutting edge features on it. It is, like I said at the beginning though, an incredible value. So if you happen to not need a lot of good volume, this is a killer deal, especially on sale, little over 200 bucks. Over 100 bucks cheaper than a Cardo Edge. And again, the waterproofing is definitely a big thing, but the volume is the other that sets them apart. That's it. Hope it helps. We'll see you next time.